All right, we are ready. Hello, hello, you guys. This is NSD Leah Lachlan. Welcome to week 2 of our Money Mondays with Leah. This is Monday, May 6th in the afternoon. I'm recording a little bit early today so that it's ready for you guys later this afternoon. I didn't want to have any YouTube Hangout issues, so I wanted to make sure we were good to go. Okay, so welcome to week 2. I hope you've been doing awesome with your 6-week plan. Just a quick reminder, that is in your workbook, and it has you doing just a couple of things that I believe if we can just master these few things, it can either keep you on a really good journey if you're already in a good place financially and create some good habits. And if you're really just starting your journey and starting to learn about money management, I feel like it's like the next best steps to create some habits. And that's doing the 60-40 split with all your sales tickets and using either the Excel spreadsheet that we provided or your own way of tracking it. It's having a Money Monday or Financial Friday where you're tracking spending in a certain area of your personal life, okay? Only just to create awareness. Remember, we're just creating awareness, which leads to different choices, which lead to different habits, which leads to a different outcome and a different lifestyle. Okay, so you're doing that, and then you're going to track all of your monthly spending in both your business and your personal finances. And you can either do that for the month of April. Okay, we just finished out April, and you can print all your transactions for the month of April. Or if you want to finish out this program and give yourself a little bit more time, you can start it in May and June. And that's at your discretion. Then I challenge everyone to choose a category that you're going to not spend in for April and May, or if you choose to, May and June. And just something you want to eliminate from your spending, or something you want to have a little bit more self-control with, or something that you want to maybe like lose a little of its grip or power on you. And so you're just going to say no to it just for a season. It doesn't have to be no forever, but maybe just for a season, just to practice financial stewardship and practice and build that muscle of discipline to just say no. I think it's empowering to decide on whatever it is for you. Just say no, and you have the self-control and you have the willpower to just eliminate that, not for a lifetime, but for a short season. I think it's a good habit to get into doing that. And then we're working on our book to whatever book you selected. And so those are the habits we're going to get in the groove with. And then let's go ahead and jump into our content for week number 2. And so I want to start with these 6 levels of financial health. And I think it's helpful to define these levels and to know where you're at, and not only know where you're at, but set a goal for the level that you want to move to. And whenever something's vague, it's like hard to get our hands on it, and whenever it's not clearly defined, it's hard to know how to move forward. But if we can just define, like, hey, I'm at this level of financial health right now, okay? And then I want to move to the next level. And so what would that look like in this season? So let's go over the levels, and then I'm going to give you some open-ended questions for you to ponder yourself, to identify, if you haven't already, some next good steps to move to the next level. Okay, so we're going to start at the bottom and move up. And the first level is struggling. Okay, so this would be a situation where you're in consumer debt. And so there's a difference between consumer debt and then maybe like your mortgage. Okay, that would not be consumer debt. So you might be in consumer debt and feels like there's no way out. It feels like you don't have you have very little choices. What is it? You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And it's just a struggle right now. And it's hard to even imagine financial freedom right now. Okay, so this would be sort of the bottom level. Okay, next level up from that would be surviving. Okay, so we're moving from struggling to surviving. And surviving is sort of like paycheck to paycheck. And you can pay your bills, but kind of barely. And you're just making it. And maybe you're not going into further debt, but you're not building any margin in your life and building any savings. There's not enough left over for that. Okay, so that's surviving. Then, so we go from struggling to surviving to stable. And stable is you have enough cash flow to cover your expenses. You can count on that. There's some security there. You may have some choices financially to maybe do some things that you want to do, or some extra things, or some luxury things. Not a lot of choices, but there's some flexibility with your income. And maybe sometimes you put money away for the future. Like sometimes you can save, sometimes you can't. It's kind of hit or miss, but may have no real long-term or short-term financial goals. Okay, so there's enough there. There's some security. There's even a few choices, but not a whole lot of goals that are in motion that you're working towards at that time. Okay. And then let's move up to the next level, that is secure. And so at the security level, you have plenty to cover your expenses and to save, and you're building some margin. Okay, so that means you're saving and you're consistently putting away money each month. And you're starting to have some very clear short-term goals and long-term financial goals that you're working towards and actively working towards. Okay. Next level is 5. Level 5 is called surplus. At this level, you have more than enough, and you consistently have more than enough. Not just on a big month where you get a big commission check, but month after month, you have more than you need, and you start to really actively give, or at least you have the option to do that. To start giving money and start investing in other people and starting to find ways to give back and finding out who has needs in your life that you can come in and fill. And at this level, you really start asking the question, like, how much is enough? Okay, how much can we live on, and what kind of margin does that create, and how can we start blessing other people because we have such a surplus? Okay, and then level 6, the highest level, is called significance. And at the significance level, there's such a large amount of surplus that you can really start building a legacy and making a contribution and an investment into the lives of others, whether that's with your family or with ministries or with charitable giving, or any number of things that you can invest in, give to, that are going to bless other people. And so this is the kind of level that you don't get there overnight. It takes a lot of hard work to get to this level. It takes a lot of goal setting. It takes seasons of discipline. Like you don't graduate from college and arrive at this significance level the next year because it takes time. Dave Ramsey's the one that says you get rich very, very slowly. And so it takes time to get to this level. And the amazing thing about this level too is that you need that time, because as you take that time and you work hard and you plan what you want to do with your money, and you learn to be a good steward, and you start learning about your financial world and learning how you want to bless other people, what's happening in that process is you're developing. You're becoming a person of significance, and your choices are creating significance for other people. And so, I mean, besides maybe winning the lottery, it takes most people at their working life to get to this level. Not only because we need the time to create that wealth, but also we need the time to become that sort of person. Okay, it's a development of ourselves as much as it is time to accumulate wealth to have more than what we need. Okay, but I do want to say you don't have to wait to start giving and tithing and finding ways to fill other needs that people have in your life, you don't have to wait till the significance level to get there. In fact, I think doing it all along your financial journey, even at the struggling level, is a part of moving towards significance, to get in the habit of giving. And we are going to cover that sort of towards the end of this hangout today, about tithing and giving. Okay. So a couple of questions for you guys to ponder. Maybe you write these down to process later, but to first really define the level that you're at. Okay. And just be straight up real. Where are you at? Struggling, surviving, stable, secure, or are you in surplus and moving to significance? Where are you at on your financial journey? And then to move up one level, okay, because we don't get to significance overnight. Let's just say to move up one level, what kind of choices would you need to make to move towards that level? When would you like to get there? What would be a deadline that you want to move to that level? What new habits can you implement that would support you in moving to that next level? Okay, because when we can really define these, it just brings more clarity. And clarity kind of clears away that vagueness. And when we have more clarity, you guys, it just makes the goal more attainable and more possible. Okay, and we're really clear on what next steps need to happen. Okay, so I'll be referring back to these levels as we go throughout the rest of the content. So the next thing I want to sort of shift to, the next topic, is talking really specifically about your Mary Kay business, and talking about what investment is versus debt. And I want to do this by just telling my story of how I started my business and how I invested in it. And if you're a new consultant considering inventory, or if you're a new consultant and you're still in the window of time to pay off your inventory, I think there's some good lessons to be gleaned from my story. And then for directors and leaders who you've long since paid off your initial investment and are running a debt-free Mary Kay business, this can support you in telling your own story and drawing out the teachable lessons from your own story to share with new consultants as they come in. Okay. So, okay. I was recruited by Tina. Okay. So she, while in the process of recruiting me, she was a brand new consultant as well. I believe I was her first recruit. I think I was. I was a part of her Pearls of Sharing. And so really, as I was considering it, I was watching her as a brand new consultant make choices to start her business and get the ball rolling. So I was kind of observing that happen as I was considering the opportunity, because she was so new in the business. And so she told me one day at a church event that she had ordered a 600 wholesale order for her inventory. And I remember thinking, like, Lord have mercy, what has she done? She just bought $600 in makeup. You know, who would need that? It sounded like $1 million to me. And remember, this is in the moment I'm considering the business opportunity. And I remember thinking, like, okay, if I do this, I'm not going to make that choice to make an investment. And this was just like a mental conversation. I wasn't saying this out loud to Tina, but that's what was going on in my head. Okay, so a few weeks later, I decided to start my business. And I, at that time, knew nothing about inventory. I knew it was an option and a decision that I was going to make or needed to make once I got my starter kit, but I knew very little beyond that. And so I got Pam Shaw's Next Steps CD, which was about inventory options. Okay, so now I use for my people a video that they watch that goes over inventory options. And I think most directors use that to educate and share information about inventory. Okay, so I popped that CD in with no intention of getting inventory. And maybe 35, 40 minutes later, when the CD was done, I wanted a $3,000 inventory. And it just made sense. Like, okay, I understand more now how the business works. And I didn't before that. And once I understood how it works, it was completely just really a no-brainer. I'm like, well, duh, yeah, you get some inventory. That makes sense. And so just as a little recruiting tip here, when you're sharing with people about the business opportunity, um, you want them to know there's an inventory decision to be made. And then once they get their starter kit, they're going to get all the information that will inform them and educate them about how the business works so they can make that decision. Unless somebody really specifically and directly asks me, I'm not going over inventory package numbers and levels until they've heard that information. Okay, because remember, Tina told me she ordered 600. I thought it sounded like $1 million, and in my brain thought I would never do that. But then a few weeks later, I'm ordering a larger inventory on a 0% credit card. Okay, so you see the difference between education and training and information. It completely switched my brain 180 degrees. And so you want to absolutely make sure your new recruits know that there is an inventory decision to be made. We are like so super clear about that. That should not be a surprise when they hear the inventory information. They should be 100% aware. But I don't think it's beneficial to go over any specific numbers until the $100 starter kit has been purchased. And those are really the orders that you want the decisions to happen in. They make a $100 decision, then they get education and training about inventory, and then they're making an inventory decision, okay? And so I wanted the Diamond Star level at 3,000 wholesale, but the 0% card, which I just happen to have, I don't know, it's this brand new 0% card. I wasn't using it for anything. I decided that was gonna be my Mary Kay card. So it didn't have enough room to put a $3,000 order, so I got 2,400 and started as a Ruby Star. And that card was 0% for 6 months. Now, I know we're listening to a lot of Dave Ramsey here, and love him, follow him. I think he's the #1 leader in the financial world as far as supporting people and living healthy financial lives. He's a little extreme on the credit cards, okay? Dave, if you're out there, but he has to be like, he just has to be because of the role that he plays and because of the problems with credit card debt that we have in America. He just has to be extreme and hold a really strong position that he believes you shouldn't have a credit card at all, period. I think his credit score is 0 because he has no credit cards because he pays for everything in cash, even very expensive homes and cars and vacations. They go on his debit card, okay? So that's like, that's another level, and it's taken him a lifetime to get there. And so I do encourage people to get a 0% card, and I think can be a great financial asset to new consultants to use the bank's money for free to make your business investment. I loved having that option, and I think it's a great option for consultants if the leader, whoever is leading that consultant, which is typically directors, if you're willing to walk her through correct money management in her business, okay? And you have to lead the way with that because most people are coming into Mary Kay not knowing how to do that. And so you've got to be a leader and intentional about having money management, sometimes uncomfortable conversations about their money management in their business. And if you're willing to do that and really lead them through that, I would feel 100% confident and feel like it's very appropriate to have women invest on a 0% card. Okay, so I got my 2,400, you guys, and then about probably a month and a half or 2 months later, I did about another 2,400, 2,500 on this card. So I had a little over 5,000 on the card because I wanted a full inventory because I was super annoyed with not having everything on hand. Ain't nobody got time for that. And I learned that very quickly in my business as I was holding power starts, and even at 2,400 did not have enough on hand that I needed. And so I'm like, this is for the birds. I need a full inventory. And so another large purchase went on that 0% card, and I paid it off to 0 in 6 months, only with Mary Kay money, okay, with part of my profit. And love that. Never used my own personal money, you guys, and never paid a dime of interest on that investment. I got to borrow the bank's money for free for 6 months to start my business, which led to a lot of profit. but I used it responsibly. Okay, and part of the way I used it responsibly is I did not wait for the monthly payment to come and just pay the minimum, like, don't do that. I divided my total amount, which was around 5,000, 6,000-ish, and I divided it by the weeks that I had it at 0%. And it was written in on my calendar on Sunday nights. I would log on to my online banking for my Mary Kay card, and I had that linked to my Mary Kay checking. And with my Mary Kay checking that my Mary Kay profit was in, I paid my Mary Kay card down and always made sure it was that number I needed to hit or higher. Now, the benefit of paying it weekly, you guys, is that you're taking a bigger number and dividing it by more. Okay, so it makes the number smaller. And when you're working on a goal, as small as you can get the number, it just helps mentally, because that number was very doable. It was very, very doable. So that was a benefit, is that it just encouraged me and gave me confidence that, like, oh yeah, I can definitely pay that number off each week. And if I just stay consistent with that, I'll have it paid off to zero by the time the 0% is up. And so when I was making this decision, I don't think I asked my husband. I think I just told him, but kind of, made it seem like I was asking. You know how that goes. But I had decided that's what I was going to do, but figured I should probably tell him and run it by him. And we've got a great thing going. We both give each other a lot of freedom and independence to make our own decisions. And we always have, financially and with our choices. And so yeah, we gave each other that freedom. And the only thing he said to me, he didn't give his opinion about it. He really just said, like, okay, I just better not see a balance on there when the 0% is up. And I'm like, yep, okay. And you guys, if that was the only Mary Kay goal I ever hit, like, I would have been happy. Like, if Mary Kay didn't go any farther for me than that, then that in my mind at that point, that would have been fine, because that was just my first really clear goal. I'm like, I just got to pay this off. And partly because I'm like, I'm going to show him, I'm going to do this, and I'm not going to take on this commitment and this responsibility that our family is taking on and not 100% honor it. Okay. And that's the only time that people can get in trouble financially with their business, is if you make an inventory investment and commitment and take on that responsibility. Like, girlfriend, you better put your big girl panties on and do something about it. Honor that responsibility you just took on. Honor that commitment that you just made for your family. And if you don't do anything else in Mary Kay ever, like, do that, pay it off, and take responsibility for that. Okay, and honor your family by making the inventory decision and then managing the inventory decision and honoring the inventory decision and honoring that investment. And so work to pay it off. Okay. Yeah, I could go on a little tangent there, but I won't do that. So you can't just sit around and expect that inventory is going to move off your shelf. Okay. You guys gotta get to work and pay it off. And so that was really one of my first real clear goals. It was to pay that off. And so there was just a lot of satisfaction, you guys, every week when I could log onto that Mary Kay credit card that I had and use my Mary Kay profit to pay it off. And so the other benefit of that is I had a real clear sales goal. I wish I can remember what the amount was. I wish I had my paperwork. Maybe if I dug in old boxes, I could find it. I wish I could share with you some of those numbers. But I used that as like just a starting point for my selling goal, so that I made sure I sold enough to not only, of course, pay the card, but also do my reorder, so that I was maintaining my inventory, and then cover my expenses, and then take some profit. Okay, so if I had to pay $100 on the card every week, I couldn't just sell $100, obviously. I had to sell more than that to be able to put the money where I needed it to go. Okay, so that was great for me. On days and weeks I didn't feel like booking, that was a source of motivation. I'm like, I got to pay the card off. I've got to honor that commitment and that choice that I've made. Also, another benefit of getting inventory was the motivation and the positive pressure that it created. Okay, sometimes we need some pressure, you guys, and view it not as a hardship, but view it as positive pressure to get our booties in action and get us moving. There were plenty of weeks I felt like I didn't have time for Mary Kay, didn't feel like doing Mary Kay, didn't have vision with Mary Kay. But you know what kept me in the game? Yeah, all those pink boxes in my apartment that were staring at me that I knew I had invested in. And I knew that they represented money and that I could take those and sell those and create and generate money. And so that was good pressure for people who make a choice to not invest in inventory for whatever reason. You are doing yourself a disservice because you're taking that positive pressure away. And you guys, we need to be pressured sometimes. We need outside sources motivating us because let's be real, we don't always feel motivated. And this was also in a season where I didn't have some big vision for Mary Kay. I didn't know I was going to earn a free card. I didn't know I was going to become a director. I didn't know I was going to make a 6-figure income. I didn't know I was going to become a national sales director. I couldn't see any of that. All I could see was a credit card with a balance on it. And that was it. And so when I had no vision beyond that, it's like I needed that pressure to keep me in the game. And had I not had the inventory, you guys, and made that investment, I know that on days and weeks I didn't feel like it, why would I need to do it? You know, why not just not book a party? I don't need to book a party. I've got another job and source of income. Why book a party? Okay, and so this is a message for consultants and directors. And I want to speak directly to directors right now that if you are in any way possibly diminishing inventory or not being bold and confident with your consultants making an inventory decision, and I'm talking star level inventory decision, you are, for people that it would be appropriate for, and it's not appropriate for everyone, okay? Inventory is not. It may be for people who don't have big goals, for people who are in a really desperate financial situation, for people who maybe don't really know a lot of people. There are situations where inventory would not be appropriate for some people. But then there's people, it's absolutely appropriate for them to make an investment. And for those people, you do them a disservice by downplaying inventory and not really being in a place of confidence and boldness to say, yes, this is going to benefit you. This is how the business runs. Feel confident in making this decision and this investment. All right. It would have been a disservice to me not to make a $5,000 to $6,000 investment on a 0% card. It would have been a disservice. I can honestly say I don't know if I'd be a Mary Kay right now, because I wouldn't have had that pressure to really work my business and develop my skills and develop my confidence and keep continuing to take the next step. Because then when you take the next step, you see a little bit further and you see a little bit further. Okay. So that's my story about inventory, which now I want to kind of move into a conversation about debt and what debt is and what debt isn't. I do believe that getting Mary Kay inventory is an investment and not debt. Because debt is something that you can't get a return on your money for. With Mary Kay, you make an investment, you get 100% return, and it generates income. Okay, it's a source of income for you. And I remember thinking when I started my business, when I first started hearing about inventory, I had the thought like, wait, I got in this to make money, and I'm just spending it right now on this inventory. And it made sense to me. I knew that I wanted it. I knew that it was the right decision. But definitely had the thought like, wait, crap, like I was supposed to be making money, not spending it. But what happened over time as I built my business is that it generated an income for us. Yes, it was an investment on the front end, but an investment to then create and generate an income that we were able to pay off a lot of things faster and earlier And we just made more money because it was like it was having another job and having another source of income being pumped into our checking account. Okay, so that's an investment. You're spending money on something that's going to make you money. Far, far, far different than consumer debt. Okay, so there's five kinds of debt. There's credit card debt, and then there's consumer debt. So that would be like your car loan, furniture loans, vacation loans, things like that. And here's a concept I want to introduce to you guys that has blessed me. This is out of Ron Blue's book, Master Your Money. This is the first time I ever heard this, is that you want to think about stuff, okay? Consumer stuff like furniture and cars and clothing, any of that, the stuff that we have that we can buy. You want to think about it as pre-trash. Okay, this concept has helped me so many times that when I'm literally at a store, like considering buying, this thing or this stuff, and I picture it in my mind as pre-trash, knowing that literally one day it will go in the trash. Is that not true? The stupid things we buy that are crap and end up breaking, or that we end up losing, or that we don't even like a month later or a year later, that just clutters up our house and our closet with all this stuff, that eventually when it's coming time to move or coming time to do spring cleaning or decluttering, you just have this piles and piles of stuff that one day you were in a store and you're like, I want this, I want to have this. And then very shortly after that, it's going to be sitting in a box collecting dust. You're going to be begging somebody to take it. It's going to be at your garage sale. It's going to be in the box for Goodwill, or it's going to be in the trash. I mean, that is true of like the majority of stuff we spend our money on. It's just pre-trash. And depending on how trashy it is, it may end up in the trash next month or next year, but eventually it's probably going to be in the trash. Doesn't that help, you guys? So next time you're at the store, like, ooh, I want that, or I want this, or I want that, just think about it, you literally taking that item and sticking it in the garbage can or the Goodwill box because you don't want it anymore and it's just cluttering up your life, okay? And the deception about credit card debt that we just buy a bunch of stuff with, or consumer debt that are loans for things that we want, like cars, furniture, vacations, this is the deception. Is that it feels like and looks like it raised our standard of living. Okay, I have this nicer car, or this nice vacation, or this nicer furniture for my home, or these nicer clothes. Okay, it looks like it raised our standard of living, but in reality, it lowers it. It lowers it now, and it lowers it in the future. Because every dollar you spend on just consumer stuff you don't need, and sure, are we all going to buy some consumer stuff? Yes. Is there anything wrong with doing that? No. Okay, so I don't want to say all stuff is, we're going to buy stuff, and that's normal, it's natural, it's a part of life, but we should be more wise and discerning about the stuff we buy and the timing of which we buy it. Okay, because every dollar you spend on the stuff, it's gone now and it's gone forever. Like it's just gone, like gone, 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 never to be returned to you. But if you would have taken that dollar or dollars spent on consumer stuff and invested it, it creates more for your future. So yeah, that dollar might be gone in a savings account and you can't spend it anymore and you don't have access to it. But it's there, and not only is it there, it's also creating more because your money works for you. Okay, and when you invest it, it grows, and it grows because it just grows, not because you're continuing to add more. Like money just grows over time when you invest and you save it. Okay, so think about that when you're spending on consumer stuff, junk you don't need, fast food you don't need, coffees you don't need. Like that dollar is gone forever, never to return to you. If you would have allocated that into a savings or investment account, it's there and it's also growing. Okay. And whatever that stuff is did not raise your standard of living, it lowered it. Okay, so let's not buy into the deception that when we get a bunch of stuff to make us look good, that our standard of living is increasing. It's actually the opposite is happening. Okay. So. Okay, so there's your credit card debt, then your consumer debt, which is usually loans that you're paying interest on. Then you've got your mortgage. And homes are not the investment they used to be several years ago. They used to be more of an investment because you could really count on the security and the return you would get when you would sell it. So, not the investment it used to be, but still can be. And you just don't want to be house poor. You don't want to owe more in your mortgage than the income that you're generating. Okay, so depending on the level of home that you invested in, it could be an investment for you in the future, of course. And then there's business investment is next. So that would be investing in your inventory or investing in a business opportunity that's going to generate an income. There's not many businesses that operate in the world today that there wasn't some sort of investment made on the front end. And then there is, kind of goes along with this, any kind of business you would start up. And so it's really the first two that you want to eliminate from your life as fast as you can. The other forms of debt are appropriate and can often be investments that generate income in the future, but it's the first two we want to avoid at all costs and get rid of as quickly as possible. And that is part of Dave Ramsey's plan that he walks you through, is eliminating this debt using the snowball effect and starting with the smallest bill that you owe and just knocking those out, even if they're lower interest on that debt, to knock them out faster because it's mentally a win, and you know how powerful small daily wins are, that when you're getting those wins lead to more wins. And success begets more success. And so it kind of gets this snowball effect into motion. Okay, so we talked about Mary Kay investing. We've talked about debt. And I think we're going to move on to our next topic. Yes, we are. Okay, so now we're going to talk about just having a plan, how to create a plan. And I do believe all directors and consultants should have a plan specifically for their sales. Okay, so I'm not talking about commissions at all. We're just talking about selling the product and generating income with the sell of the product. And so I'm going to walk you through this. And directors out there who are leading consultants, this is really beneficial to have in sort of your training files that every now and then you can train the whole unit on, or you would use this to maybe just train an individual on or a new consultant on so that she's managing her money well. When there's no plan, and we lose focus and there's not a lot of clarity, it can just feel like you're not progressing or you're not making money or you're not reaching your goals. But when there's a plan and you can really track it, you guys, magical things unfold from that. So let's figure out how to make a plan. I'm going to be talking about a few pages in your workbook. Specifically, let me give you the page numbers. It's pages 12, 13, and 14. And they are the pages about the 60-40 split. And I actually use these. These are in my pink bootcamp workbook. And these are what I've used for years to train on the concept of the 60-40 split. And then it breaks it down by number of parties that a consultant or director would hold so that you can know on average, and this is a very conservative, like starting off, maybe a little to no selling skills. So these are very conservative numbers, but it gives you an idea like, okay, if I hold about four parties a month, I can generate this amount of sales. And then here's how the money breaks down and here's where I would put that money. Okay, so it's just a good visual to actually see amounts and numbers put towards a certain level that you're working at in your business, whether you're holding one party a month or one party a week or two parties a week or up to five parties a week. Okay, so it really helps the concept of the 60-40 split to be explained. And you guys, I did last week, I posted it's about 1 hour. I really wanted it to be shorter than that, but just couldn't get it all in less time than that. But it's 1 hour on really explaining the 60-40 split and going into it in detail. And so directors, you can use this for your consultants, or you can watch it and develop your own content and training so that people know and really fully grasp the 60-40 split and know how to set their accounts up so that the money is going in the right places. And that's so, so important. Like half the battle is just making sure the money is in the right account and that you're using the right account and that you're moving it in places where it's safe and protected and where you're seeing your profit and you've got your expenses sitting there in an account ready to use. That is half the battle sometimes, is just getting that all set up and organized. But once you do, it can flow really, really nicely. And you can be super organized with your money. So the 60-40 split is explained, and then it goes at the end of this page, it goes through some questions that help you to walk through crunching numbers for any goals that you have. And so we're going to talk about paying off an inventory investment and an example of how to walk through this. And I believe it's next week, we're going to talk about how to budget for seminar using your sales from your parties. Okay, but let's start by going through an example of like, I want to pay off this inventory. How do I do it? How do I track it? What does it look like? What do the numbers look like? And so if you can grab a calculator, I think that would be helpful. And we're going to walk through it together. Oh my gosh, you guys, I just got a text from my sister and she's pregnant. That's awesome. Oh my goodness, she got married back in February, destination wedding in Florida. And they wanted to have babies right away. So we've been like anxiously awaiting the news. So don't tell anyone, as I just announced it to hundreds of people all over the US, but you don't know her. So it's so exciting. Yay. Okay. So, okay. Total squirrel moment there, you guys, as I'm looking at my phone. Okay, here we go. So let's say, and we're going to use nice even numbers so it's easy to track, even if you don't have a calculator or can't write this down. Like you can mentally track this pretty easily. So let's say you have $1,000 on a credit card you want to pay off, and it's your Mary Kay inventory or any kind of investment you've made in your business. And let's put a time frame to it. Okay, so we've got a goal, and then we always put a deadline to it or a time frame to it. And we're going to pay it off, and let's say by August 1st. Okay. And so let's take $1,000 and let's see, this is May, June, July. Yeah, so about, let's say 90 days, May, June, and July, so that by August 1st it's paid off. So we've got 90 days to do that, so that's 13 weeks. So 1,000 divided by 13 weeks is $76.92. We're gonna round that up to 77. That's what you would pay weekly. Okay, isn't that encouraging that that's such a small number? Okay, whenever we've got a big number, we want to break it down as small as we possibly can because it's just encouraging and gives us hope and confidence. And so we're going to pay $77 a week on this credit card for the next 90 days to get the credit card to zero. Now, so what do you need to sell weekly? Because you can't just sell $77 weekly because there's other things you need to be doing with the money, right? And so the 77 would need to be at least the 40% left over that you have something to do with. Okay. Remember, 50% is just goes to your reorder. You sell a cleanser, you reorder a cleanser. Okay. Pretty simple. You're going to be reordering everything that's moving off of your shelf. And so 77, okay, so that's 50%. Then remember the 10%, we're covering expenses. So 5% is staying in your checking to go towards shipping in section 2. And I recommend having an expense account that the other 5% is just that money is just being tucked away for when expenses come around, you've got the money sitting there. Okay, so we've got the 50% going to the reorder, 5% sitting in that same account because it's going to be in the same transaction in your reorder for Section 2 and shipping, and then another 5% is moved to another account. And so that leaves your 40%. So that's what you have some choices to do something with that. So you've taken care of the business, and you do that first so that you're growing and supporting your business. And then you have this money sitting there that you have a choice of what to do with. And so that's where a lot of variables come in, depending on your goals. Okay, but we're specifically talking about paying off this investment. And so really to pay $77 a week, you would need to sell $192 that week so you can put all the money where it needs to go. So if you sell 192, your 50% reorder would be $96. Your 10% is $19. 5% moves to another account. The other 5 stays there. So $8 here, $8 here. And then you've got your 40% left over, which is your $77. And then you take that $77 and you're paying down the card. Now, here comes the next layer or detail, is you probably want and or need to make a profit. And not just use 100% of your money left over for paying off the card, although there's nothing wrong with that. Some people, that's their number one goal. They may not need the Mary Kay income right now because they're being supported with another income, and they just have the goal to pay that off as quickly as possible. Okay, so that becomes your choice. Do you just need to use all profit to pay off the card? Great, do that. If you need or want to make a profit, you're just going to sell more with that money. But the bare minimum to be able to pay that $1,000 off by August in the next 90 days is you need to sell 192 to make that $77 payment. Okay. And so how many parties do you need to sell to do that retail, 192 retail? It depends on you. If you're a brand new consultant, you probably need to be holding 1 to 2 parties to guarantee that you're going to generate that income. Those of you who are more seasoned, you might just need a few reorders. Okay, because of course, as you grow your business and grow your customer base, we've got people selling $1,000 a week on reorders alone. Okay, but that takes time to build that. So if you're newer in your business, you're going to generate it through appointments. As you become more seasoned, it becomes easier to generate more income because you have a customer base who's reordering from you. Let's go through another quick example. Okay. Well, actually, let me recap that. So let's say you're brand new, you're paying off $1,000 in the next 90 days. 1 to 2 parties a week would be the activity that you would need to do to be able to reach that goal. Now, if you want to hold 1 to 2, you would need to book 2 to 4. Half of what you book is going to cancel or reschedule. That's just normal. And so to book 2 to 4, then you would determine the booking calls you would need to do to generate 2 to 4 bookings per week. So you figure out how many booking calls. That's going to look a little bit different for everyone, but you figure that out. And then you divide it into the days that you work your business. Okay, and this is just a general goal setting tip, is that any goal, financial goal, Mary Kay business goal, weight goal, any goal you set, you're going to start with the big goal, the big picture up here, and you keep whittling it down and whittling it down and whittling it down and whittling it down and whittling it down until you know what you need to do daily. Okay, that's the ultimate goal in goal setting, is to figure out the daily steps that you need to take, because nothing changes in your life until something changes that you do every day. Okay, so let's move on to building a full store. Okay, so maybe that's your goal, is building an inventory, and maybe you need to do that through your sales. and you either don't have the luxury or are choosing not to just make the boom, that one-time big investment on a card, you need to do that over time with part of your profit. Okay, so let's just walk through that just so we can go through another example, just so we can get in the rhythm and get in the habit of learning to crunch these numbers and then again break it down to a daily goal. So let's say you need 2,000 more to build to a full inventory. And let's say you want to do it by the new year. Okay, so about 8 months from now. Is that right? May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Yes, so 8 months from now, you want to have a full inventory and you want to build it over time with part of your profits. So let's do 2,000 divided by 8 months. Start breaking that big number down into a small number. Okay, that's 250. So you would need to order an additional 250 wholesale per month on top of just your reorder. Okay, because remember, you're just reordering what you're selling. But if you only do that, that just sort of maintains your inventory. But you're wanting to grow it. So you want to reorder your 50 plus an additional 250 so that your inventory is growing over time. So the 250 would need to at least be that 40% left over. And so you would need to make sure that 250 is the 40% left over, you'd actually need to sell 625 retail. And then half of that would be your reorder, 10% would be your expenses, and then the 40% left over would be 250, which would go on top of your reorder that you already have just to replace the products. So now if you need to do more with that profit and that 40%, you would just need to sell more depending on what you need or want to do with that money. But if you strictly just wanted to build your inventory, that extra 250 would be what you would need to do. So let's recap that. So if you want to grow your inventory by 2,000 wholesale and you want a full inventory by the new year, you would order an additional 250 per month for 8 months, which means you're selling 625 retail per month. Okay, per month is what you're selling, which is only 156 retail per week, which for most people, if they had a party or even a facial, it would cover that to sell 156 per week. And so I hope that you've seen with these two examples that you can start with a big goal or a big number, and with breaking it down and with some planning and some focus and some intention, you can tackle a ton of financial goals, and like quicker than you even think. But here's what we typically do. We typically just like leave it in vagueness. Like, I really want to build my inventory. Okay, so I'm just gonna like do my Mary Kay and build my inventory. And when there's no real clear plan to back up that desire and that goal, we just kind of just like, I want to build my inventory. I want to do it. Okay, I'm going to keep going. And it's like we're spinning our wheels. We're not getting there because the clear plan isn't in place or being tracked. But there's nothing you can't do when you take the big goal and just break it down into small little numbers. And so consultants out there and directors out there, what is your clear plan right now? Well, what is it you would love to do with your Mary Kay profit from your sales? I'm not talking commission check, from your sales. What would bless your family to be able to spend that money on? How much do you want to generate? What kind of daily activity would that look like to be able to generate that level of income? How would you track it? How can you enroll your family in the goal of doing this? So, and directors out there, you guys imagine having a whole unit of consultants who have a clear plan like this. Okay, and all of their plans are going to look different because all of their goals and situations are different. But imagine having an entire unit of consultants who have their money plan ready to go, and they know what they need to do weekly, daily, and monthly, and they're excited because there's a plan and they're tracking it and they're encouraged, and their family is being blessed by the income generated in their business. Just imagine what that would look like and what that would feel like. Um, Okay, so the page on page 14, it does go through some questions that we kind of just walk through together on the video here. You guys have those questions in your workbook that you can take and apply and apply to yourself, or leaders, you can teach your people to walk through that. All right, we're gonna kind of switch gears here. And for the rest of our time together, I wanna go over just some like basic kind of key money concepts. And I'm going to jump to a lot of different things, but I want to cover these so we can start exploring and learning about these concepts. Okay? And we won't cover all of them today, and we will pick up where we left off next week. So one of my favorites to explore and talk about is the power of investing your money over time and what that can really lead to. I'm literally blown away every time I look at these numbers and I consider this, because it's amazing. I mean, they call compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. And so let's explore this. Let's say you invested $2,000 each year. And this could be in any financial institution that you choose to bank with, whether your own personal one right now. We belong to a credit union, and we have for years, and love the credit union, but they don't have their accounts for investing. They just don't have as many options as we want and need. And so we found a local, kind of a more local, smaller institution that we've been investing with for years now, that recently they just weren't performing at the high level, and they were not rated as high as they have been for the past years. And this has gone on for a few years now. We've kind of gone back and forth with, well, do we move the money or what do we do? And we recently decided to move the money. And it happens, we moved all of our investment accounts over to Chase Bank. No, I'm sorry, not Chase, Schwab Investments. And so that's something to consider too. Like, what are some local financial institutions that you can invest with? Who has stocks performing at a great level right now? That would be kind of step one. If those things aren't already set up, is to start doing some research on that and just decide where you are going to invest and then what types of accounts you're going to invest in. And so let's say you took $2,000 and saved $2,000 a year, which when you divide that by 12 months, it's $167, excuse me, $167 a month that you're investing and putting into an account where the money is working for itself and growing, and money that you're not touching. This is like, you put it there and it's gone. It's not like a savings account you can dip into when you need to. It's like, may as well just be gone, and you're saving it and wanting it to grow for the future. And of course, the longer time frame you have, the better, because it just has a longer time to grow. I mean, you really want to start investing as early as you possibly can, because time is your friend when it comes to this. And we want to teach our kids who are moving to adulthood to start doing this at an early age so that they have the advantage of time. And so we're putting this money away, and let's say it's giving us a return of 10% over the course of your working life, which some of us have more time than others, but we're just going to go through an example to illustrate the power of the compound effect here when it comes to compounding interest. So you're putting this money away, and let's say you do this over the course of your working life, and you're just doing $2,000 a year, which is $167 a month. Okay. At the age of 60, that account would be worth nearly $1 million. That it would grow to. You could become a millionaire by just putting away $167 a month over the course of your working life. And a 10% return is pretty conservative, fairly conservative. So it's amazing. You don't have to make a million to eventually have a million when you're wisely investing your money and allowing it to grow for you. Okay, so 167 a month. Where could you possibly find that? Because I know the challenge becomes, especially when you're possibly in debt or living paycheck to paycheck, or there's just not enough. It's like, where do you find 167 if you don't feel like you have 167? And so there's so many ways to do that, you guys. So let's talk about some of those ways. First of all, eliminating debt through the snowball effect and getting debt free so that you're not making any more payments each month could easily create that extra income. Okay, so that's step one, is to start that snowball, that debt snowball, and pay that off. And that could generate probably more than 167 a month. Another way is just to look at your grocery bill. I mean, what are some things you could shave off or like use some coupons on to pare that down a little bit so that generates that extra 167 to invest. Going out to eat, that's an easy one. Getting coffees, spending money on fast food. That's usually a shocker for people who don't track that, who start to track that, the eating out bill and how much you spend. It is shocking how much can possibly be spent on stuff like that. Even just coffees. Let's not even say food. Let's just say your coffees that you're grabbing here and there when you're out and about. A lot of money can just be really thrown down the drain, especially if you're in a position where you don't have the luxury of using that money on things you don't really need. You could easily find 167 in money to save when you cut some of that stuff out. Your cable bill, clothing is another big one that you can start to eliminate. Manicures and pedicures. And maybe you don't totally eliminate some of these things, but maybe if you're used to getting, one every couple of weeks, maybe you just do one a month and you don't eliminate it, but you just pare it down a little bit to generate the extra income. Maybe you're in the habit of doing them, going out to the movies or going out to eat every Friday night. And that's just how you like to spend your weekends, and it's your leisure time or date night with your husband. Well, maybe it's not every Friday, maybe it's every other Friday. And one Friday night you stay in, the next Friday night you can go out and enjoy and splurge a little bit. And then the next Friday you stay in. So you're not eliminating these things that bring you joy and that are fun. You're just paring them down a little bit to create this extra money that can go into savings. Okay, here's another little stat that is like crazy. $4.79 per day, which is about the cost of like a specialty drink at Starbucks, like a latte. So $4.79 per day spent on non-productive purchases results in an overspending of $1,750 per year. I'll look at it later, Aria. Okay. Thank you. Here, put it on the island in the kitchen. Thanks. Okay, so let me say that number again. $1,750 per year is what $4.79 per day is added up to. Isn't that crazy? So if instead that $4.79 were not spent on that latte every day or just the non-productive purchases, and if that $1,750 were invested that year instead of spent, because remember, every consumer dollar spent is like gone forever. So if that were invested over your working life, okay, so over a span of time, and it earned a 10% return and compounded annually, such an easy one to have if you don't already have this account is just a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. That's a great place to start if you want to start investing and saving. So then that $4.79 per day over time, when it's invested each year, generates almost $1 million. It's 850,000 that ends up becoming over the span of your working life. Isn't that crazy? I mean, compounding interest is truly the eighth wonder of the world. So the next time you're at Starbucks getting your latte, or at the gas station getting this drink or this snack or this whatever, pause for a minute and ask yourself, what does this really cost me in the future? And it's the little purchases that get us, you guys. Sometimes we can have more discipline with the larger purchases, and we're not as willing to like blow a bunch of money on maybe something larger, but it's just easy to swipe, 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 swipe for the little small stuff, not realizing if we reallocated that, how much it can give us in the future. Okay, it's the little stuff that is often more of a problem than some of the bigger purchases. Okay, so if you want to start investing and saving, again, I'm going to say a Roth IRA is a great place to start, because the money that is going into that account has already been taxed, but it will not be taxed when you withdraw it, or a traditional IRA. So it's also a major tax advantage too. Big mistake and common pitfall is that people they wait to start investing until they feel like they have the extra. And then what happens is you miss the advantage of just time passing. It's gonna pass, and it's gonna pass faster than we can all imagine. And so what kind of saving and investment plan can you start today, even if it's super small amount, can over time generate quite a bit of wealth for you in the future. Okay, so let's move on to another topic. And the next one I want to cover is kind of a big one. It's tithing. Let's go over this. The concept of tithing, it's a biblical concept that many different types of faith and many different religions practice. And typically 10% is the number where you would set aside 10% to give to your church and or charity. And so they've done studies on tithing, and it's a fairly controversial topic, depending on how you grew up or what faith you practice. But they've done some studies, and in marriage counseling specifically, the divorce rate of a couple who tithes and who are in agreement on that tithe of how much they're giving to church or charity is significantly lower than couples who either do not, or who are not maybe in agreement on it. Maybe one does and one does not. And the point they made when I was reading about this study is not that tithing is some magic wand on your marriage. It's just that the act of tithing, the act of giving, is regularly practicing selflessness, where you are taking what you have and what's rightfully, yours, in the sense that you worked to earn that paycheck, you worked to earn that money, and you are surrendering it to someone else and giving it to someone else. And just the act of doing that diminishes selfishness and creates a more selflessness about us. And as we become people who are more about others and less about ourselves, when we're in the practice and the habit of doing that in a real practical way, like giving your money, you become a better person just by doing that. You become a better mom, you become a better wife as you move away from selfishness and move towards being others focused, and move away from how can I serve myself to how can I really bless and serve other people. Okay, so the practice of doing that makes you a better person in the process. They've done a study on employers as well, that employers who tithe are less likely to get fired. Literally, they've done a study on this. And again, it's not some magical wand that when you tithe, some like magic that happens. No, it's the same in your marriage, that as you become this person who moves away from selfishness and towards serving others, you just become a better version of yourself. And people who are growing and becoming better versions of themselves are more likely to hold down a job and to be an employer that somebody wants to employ, and that creates a level of security in your work life. Okay, and so God designed us, and He knows and understands human nature, and He knows we're at our very best when we are givers. And so He doesn't ask us to tithe to put some heavy burden on us, or to ask us to give more than we want to. That's not the goal of tithing. The goal is that we become a better version of ourselves as we do that, and we become a blessing to other people. And when we have a world of people who are doing that, imagine how transformative that would be. Also, it reminds us who owns it all anyway. Okay, when you're surrendering something that you believe is yours and that you earned, and you decide to surrender it, it's a weekly or monthly reminder of who owns it all anyways. And it's not for us to hoard or hold on to, it's for us to give. And in the process, it's a journey of praise and worship, and just a spiritual function that makes you better. And so you cannot give what you don't have. Hey, Aria, can you wait for me out there like we talked about? Thank you. You cannot give what you do not have to give. And so I've never been more encouraged or challenged to be a giver since I became a national sales director. And not just because there was more to give. The reason I became encouraged and challenged by that is observing the national sales directors who are in the company. There's about 200 in the United States of America, you guys, and you would be so proud of the NSDs in our company and the leaders that they are in this business, but also financially responsible stewards of what they've been given, and involved in giving back, and not only giving their money, but giving their time to their church, to their community, to ministries, to people in need. It's the most inspiring thing that I've seen, and something I was blown away by as I entered into the NSD sisterhood and community and started hearing about people's lives. And you start to hear the details of what they're involved in and who they give to. And it's amazing to observe a group of people who are so like-minded in that. And I believe God's favor and blessing is on this company because of the leaders who are working their business, yes, to create an awesome income for their family and their future, but also to give back and to bless others and to move to that level of significance. Remember, we talked about the 6 levels: struggling, surviving, then stable, then secure, then there's a surplus, and then there's significance. And the NSD world, it's really a platform to grow to that level of financial healthiness. And so just one little practical thing that I'm going to close with, and we'll save some of these other big concepts for next week. But teaching our kids to manage their money. I wish I would have learned a little bit earlier on than I did, and maybe had an opportunity to practice the saving and the tithing. Because not only do you tithe 10%, It's another important financial practice to save 10% too. And Dave Ramsey actually says 15% of your income you want to be saving and investing. That's a good level to be at. And so we can teach our kids to do this right now. And a practical thing that we do is just we have mason jars, and each kid has like a different color of their mason jar, and it's either written tithe or save on top of the mason jar, and it just is in a little cubby in our mudroom, so that whenever they get money for their birthday or money for any holidays or whatever it is, that they divide it up into these jars, and then their spending money is just their spending money, and we give them freedom to just get whatever they want. We try not to put too much constraints around that, just so they have the freedom and the practice of making choices about what they want to spend money on. And so they get, let's say they get $20 for their birthday. We'll do the math. It's a nice little math lesson too. And then they take the dollars and the change and stick it in one jar, and then they take the other dollars and change, they stick it in the other jar, and then they have a piggy bank for their extra spending money. And so, important concept to ingrain in our kids at a young age, so that they enter into adulthood with financial concepts that sometimes it takes far into adulthood for some people to understand and to get and to start practicing. And so just an easy, practical way to prepare our kids to enter into adulthood already understanding that. So you guys, we're going to wrap up there. We're going to cover some more kind of basic money concepts next week, in addition to we're going to talk about taxes as well, and how to get organized in your office as far as just the paperwork that you're going to have, and how to plan and be prepared for taxes for your business and your personal world. And then we're also going to talk about seminar expenses and breaking that down and understanding what it would look like to pay for seminar in cash with our sales that we generate over the next 90 days. All right, you guys, be blessed. Stay tuned in our Facebook group, stay a part of the community and what's happening there, and I will see you next week.